Absolutely. Oops. Oh dear, it's recording.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Uddhav Uvacha. अथ ते तद् अनुज्ञाता भुक्त्वा पीत्वा च वारुणिं तया विभ्रंशितज्ञान दुरुक्ते मर्मपस्पृशः.
Thereafter, all of them, the descendants of the Vrishni and Bhoja, being permitted to the Brahmanas, partook of the remnants of prasad and also drank liquor made of rice. By drinking, they all became delirious and bereft of knowledge. They touched the cores of each other's hearts with harsh words. Hare Krishna.
Text 2. तेषां मैरेयदोषेण विषमीकृतचेतसां निम्लोचति द्रवाव आसीत् वेणुनामिव मर्दनम्.
As by the friction of bamboos, destructions take place, so also at sunset, by the interactions of the faults of intoxication, all their minds became unbalanced and destruction took place.
Text 3. भगवान् स्वात्ममायाया गतिं ताम् अवलोक्य सः सरस्वतीम् उपस्पृश्य वृक्षं मूलम् उपाविशत्.
The personality of Godhead, Lord Shri Krishna, after foreseeing the end of his family by his eternal internal potency, went to the bank of the river Saraswati, sipped water, and sat down underneath a tree.
Text 4. Aham chokto bhagavata प्रपन्नार्ति हरेणः बदरीं त्वं प्रयाहीति स्वकुलं सञ्जिहीर्षुण.
The Lord is the vanquisher of the distresses of one who is surrendered unto him. Thus, who desired family told me previously to go to Bhadrika Ashram.
Text 5. तथापि तदभिप्रेतं जाननहम् अरिन्दम पृष्ठतोऽन्वगमं भर्तुः पादविश्लेषणाक्षमः.
Yet, in spite of my knowing his desire to destroy the dynasty, O Aridama Vidura, I followed him because it was impossible for me to bear separation from the lotus feet of the Master.
Text 6. अद्राक्षमेकमाशीनं विचिन्वन्दयितं पतिं श्रीनिकेतं सरस्वत्यां कृतकेतम् अकेतनम्.
Thus, the following, I saw my patron and master, Lord Shri Krishna, sitting alone and deeply thinking, taking shelter on the bank of the river Saraswati, although he is the shelter of the goddess of fortune.
Text 7. श्यामावदातं विरजं प्रशान्तारुणलोचनं दोर्भिश्चातुर्भिर्विदितं पीतकोशाम्बरेण वरेण च.
The Lord's body is blackish, but he is eternal, full of bliss and knowledge, and very, very beautiful. His eyes are always peaceful, and they're reddish like the rising sun. I could immediately recognize him as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, by his 4 heads, different symbolic representations, and yellow silk garments.
Text 8. Vama ura adhishritya dakshinangre saroruham apashritarbhakashvastam akrisham tyakta pipalam.
The Lord was sitting, taking rest against a young banyan tree, with his right lotus foot on his left thigh, and although he had left all household comforts, he looked quite cheerful in that posture.
Text 9. Tasmin mahabhagavato dvaipayana suhrutsakha lokan anucharan siddha asasada yadrichaya.
Maitreya, a great devotee of the Lord and a friend and well-wisher of the great sage Krishna, Dvapayana Vyasa, reached that spot out of his own perfect accord.
Text 10. Tasyanuraktasya munirmukunda pramoda bhavanatakandarasya ashrinvato mam anuragahasa samikshaya vishramayan uvacha.
Maitreya Muni was greatly attached to him, the Lord, and he was listening in a pleasing attitude, with his shoulder lowered, with a smile and a particular glance upon me. Having allowed me to rest, the Lord spoke as follows.
Text 11. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Vedahamantarmanashipshitam te dadami yatadurvapam anye satre puraveshvasrajam vashonam matsiti kamena vashotvayeshtaha.
O Vasu, I know from within your mind what you desired in the days of yore, when the Vasus and other demigods responsible for expanding the universal affairs performed sacrifices. You particularly desired to achieve my association. This is very difficult for others to obtain, but I award it unto you.
Text 12. Saisha sadhu charamo bhavanam आशादितस्ते मदनुग्रहो यत् यन्मां नरलोकान् रह उत्सृजन्तं दिष्ट्या ददृश्वान् विशदानुवृत्त्या.
O honest one, your present life is the last and the supermost, because in this term of life you have been awarded my ultimate favor. Now you can go to my transcendental abode, Vaikuntha, by leaving this universe of the conditioned living entities. Your visit to me in this lonely place, because of your pure and unflinching devotional service, is a great boon for you.
Text 13. Ramaya proktam ajaya nabhye padme nishanaya mamadi sarge jnanan paraman mahimavabhasam yatsurayo bhagavatam vadanti.
O Uddhav, in the lotus millennium, in the days of yore, at the beginning of the creation, I spoke unto Brahma, who is situated on the lotus that grows out of my navel, about my transcendental glories, which the great sages describe as Srimad Bhagavatam.
Text 14. इत्याद्रुतप्ता परमस्य पुंसा प्रतिसनानुग्रहभाजनोदं स्नेहोतरो मा स्खलिताक्षरस्तं मुञ्चञ्चुच्या प्रणजलेराभासे.
Uddhav said, O Vidura, when I was thus favored at every moment by the Supreme Personality of Godhead and addressed by him with a great affection, my words failed in tears, and the hairs on my body erupted. After smearing my tears, I, with folded hands, spoke like this.
Text 15. कोन्वेषते पादसरोजपाजां सुदुर्लभोर्तेषु चतुष्वपीह तथापि नाहं प्रवर्णोमि भूमन् भवत्पदाम्भोजनिषवानुतुक्षुकः.
O my Lord, devotees who engage in the transcendental loving service of your lotus feet have no difficulty in achieving anything within the realm of the four principles of religiosity, economic development, sense gratification, and liberation. But, O Great One, as far as I'm concerned, I have preferred only to engage in the loving service of your lotus feet.
Next 16. कर्मण्यनिहस्य भवो भवस्य ते दुर्गाश्रयोधारिभयात् पलायनं कालात्मनो यत् प्रमदायुताश्रम स्वात्मान् रते खीद्यते धीर्विदामिह.
My Lord, even the learned sages became disturbed in their intelligence when they see that your greatness engages in fruitive work, although you are free from all desires, that you take birth, although you are unborn, that you flee out of fear of the enemy and take shelter in a fort, although you are the controller of the invincible time, and that you enjoy household life surrounded by many women, although you enjoy in yourself.
Next 17. मन्त्रेषु मां वा उपहूय यत्त्वम् अकुण्ठिताखण्डसदात्मबोधः पृच्छे प्रभुमुग्ध इवाप्रमातस्तन्नो मनो मोहयतीव देव.
O my Lord, your eternal self is never divided by the influence of time. There is no limitation to your perfect knowledge. Thus you are sufficiently able to consult with yourself. Yet you call upon me for consultation, as if bewildered, although you are never bewildered, and this act of yours bewilders me.
Text 18. ज्ञानं परं स्वात्मरः प्रकाशं प्रोवाचकस्मै भगवान् समाग्रम् अपेक्षमानुग्रहणाय भर्तार् वदनाजसा यद्वृजनां तरेमा. Hare Krishna.
My Lord, kindly explain to us, if you think as competent to receive it, your transcendental knowledge, which gives enlightenment about yourself and which you explained before to Brahmaji.
Thank you for the opportunity, Hare Krishna, and sorry
Hare
if I give any
Krishna.
mistakes.
Hare Krishna, me too.
Hare Krishna Mataji, thank you very much for your nice recitation of the Sanskrit in English. Welcome, dear devotees, to today's chat session. I'm very pleased and honored to be in your association discussing Srimad Bhagavatam. Today we will continue with our reading and discussion of the fourth chapter of the third canto. The chapter is entitled The Status Quo, and today we'll be discussing text number 8 to 10. As we normally do, we'll start off by reciting the Mangala Charanam prayers. Please feel free to join in behind muted mics. Om Gyanaatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Malitam Hena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadhavayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yatapada Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastate Tapta Kanchana Gourangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sutadevi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhi Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vashadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pastacha Deshatarine Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So we continue to discuss the meeting between the Lord and Uddhava and Maitreya Muni. This meeting is a very significant meeting. It took place just before Lord Krishna departed from this world, and it took place in a place called Somnath, which is in Gujarat, and it is said it is, as we know previously, Lord Krishna spoke the night before he left this world. He spoke what is known as the Uddhava Gita, and the Uddhava Gita is known as the sort of the deepest, most significant philosophical conversation in the Bhagavatam, where Lord Krishna instructs Uddhava on the full science of Krishna consciousness. That was a very, very significant conversation, and this is basically building up to this very important part. So we'll continue with text number 8. Vama urav udishritya dakshinangri saror ruham apashrita akashvatam akrisham tvakta palam. Word for word synonyms. Vame, on the left. Ura, thigh. Adishritya, placed on. Dakshina, hungry. Saro ruham, the right lotus foot. Apashritya, taking rest again. Arbakayam, Ashvatam, banyan tree. Akshisham, cheerful. Tvakta, having left. Pipalam, household comforts. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The Lord was sitting, taking rest against a young banyan tree, with his right lotus foot on his left thigh. And although he had left all household comforts, he looked quite cheerful in that posture. But the Bhagavad Gita is somewhere in my study. I'm not sure if you can see this. This is the picture on the Uddhava Gita. The Lord with his right foot on his left thigh. Purport. According to Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, the Lord's sitting posture, keeping his back against the newly grown banyan tree, is also meaningful. Ashvata, the banyan tree, is so called because the tree does not die very quickly. It continues to live for many, many years. His legs and their energies are the material ingredients, which are 5 in all: earth, water, fire, air, and sky. Material energies represented by the banyan tree are all products of his external potency, and are therefore kept to his back. And because this particular universe is the smallest of all, the banyan tree is therefore designated as small, or as a child. Chwakta Pipalam indicates that he had now finished his pastimes in this particular universe, in this particular small universe. But since the Lord is absolute and eternally blissful, there is no difference between his leaving or accepting something. The Lord is now prepared to leave this particular universe and go into another. Just as the sun rises on one particular planet and sets in another simultaneously, but does not change its own situation. So Srila Prabhupada makes many interesting points in the purport that is worth discussing. So the first point being made here, or one point being made here, the Lord keeping his back against the newly grown banyan tree. So Srila Prabhupada in his purport indicates that the banyan tree indicates the Lord's material energy. And it is said that the banyan tree is at the back of the Lord, because the material world is considered to be like the back portion of the Lord. This is what the material world is about. This is an interesting point which I would like to get your insights into. Prabhupada writes here, his legs and the energies are the material ingredients, which are 5 in all: earth, water, fire, air, and sky. Now, what do you understand by that, dear devotees? The statement, his legs and the energies are the material ingredients, which are 5 in all. We know that Krishna's body is Sachidananda Vigraha. His legs are not material. But here, Prabhupada is saying his legs and the energies are the material ingredients, which are 5 in all: earth, water, fire, air, and sky. Is Prabhupada saying that Krishna's legs, as Uddhava was saying here, was made out of the 5 material elements? What point is Srila Prabhupada making here? How do you understand this, dear devotees? Anyone likes to share their realization, their thoughts?
Sorry, can I say something?
Yes,
Does
Mataji.
it mean that we are we have the 5 senses, and I think sorry, it's gone out of my mind now. I was going to say we have the 5 senses, and our body is built up of the 5 senses: the earth, water, fire, and the air, and the sky. So our body represents those things. Does it mean that?
I'm not sure. I didn't think it did. But thank you for sharing your thoughts.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Anyone else likes to share their understanding of the statement? Okay, shall I share what I think?
Yes, please, Prabhuji.
Yes.
So, well, definitely Krishna's body is not made out of earth, water, fire, air, and sky. So I was thinking more in terms of the Virat Rupa. I think it was the second canto we discussed the Virat Rupa being representing the different parts of the Lord's material energy. So my consideration was that this is referring to, because the Lord's legs is spoken about here, Prabhupada is cross-referencing this against the Virat Rupa. That's the only understanding I could come to. But I was thinking I'd like to research it a bit more, make more inquiries, and maybe you can do also. And then at some point in time, we can come back. But it's a very interesting statement, isn't it?
It's very interesting, yeah. I always thought that, our body is being made out of that. Everything is our body. Everything is in our body. So that's why I thought that this statement says that only we don't know. God knows. God is here. It says Krishna has been made out of all these things, but we also are, but we don't know because we haven't got that knowledge. But God knows because He has the knowledge.
Are you suggesting that Krishna's legs are made of earth, water, fire, air, and sky?
Well, He is God Himself, so yes.
No.
To come as God, to have an avatar, and to come here in this world, He has to have that. Otherwise, we would not believe that He's God.
It's a very important point you're raising, Mataji, and it's a very, very important and significant philosophical point. It's like Prabhupada speaks out against the Mayavadis very, very strongly. Very, very strongly in the Bhagavatam and all of his purports. And they are called Mayavadis because they think Krishna's body is made out of material elements. It is made out of, but we know that Krishna's body is Satchidananda Vigraha. His body is never like our body. His body is completely spiritual, completely transcendental. Our body is made up of earth, water, fire.
Prabhu, could it be the fact that, like, the effulgence coming from his legs, that these materials come from?
What's your code? What's your code?
Huh?
What's your code?
Sorry?
What's your code?
I don't see any reference to effulgence here, but let's park it for now. It's an interesting statement. I shared with you what I thought it meant. And let's take it away in our own study and understanding of the Bhagavatam to understand a bit better what it means. Okay? But Prabhupada says in the next statement, the material energy is represented by the banyan tree. Just like in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna talks about the banyan tree. The tree is lying next to the body of water. It's inverted, it is perverted. And Krishna refers to the reflection of the banyan tree to be like the material world, which is a perverted reflection of the spiritual world. Prabhupada says the material energy is represented by the banyan tree, all products of his external potency, and are therefore kept to his back. The external potency, as Prabhupada is saying here, it's kept to Krishna's back. Next interesting statement in this purport is Srila Prabhupada saying that this particular universe is the smallest of all. And therefore the banyan tree is designated as small. So this is an interesting fact that our universe, the one we're living in, and we know from the pastimes of Lord Krishna, Lord Brahma, he's the creator or secondary creator of this material universe. He's four-headed. Once he went to see Lord Krishna in Dwaraka, and he came to the door, and he told the doorkeeper, "Can you please let Lord Krishna know that I am here? Lord Brahma is here." So the doorkeeper went, and he came back later, and he said, Lord Krishna wants to know which Brahma. And he said, "Yes, you can come in." So he went to see the Lord, and when he went there, he offered his prayers and his pranams and so on. And then he asked the Lord, "But I'm very curious why you asked which Brahma." He was thinking that he's the only Brahma, four-headed Brahma. And then Lord Krishna summoned the Brahmas from all the different universes. Some came with 10 heads, some came with 100 heads, some came with 1,000 heads, some came with 10 million heads. And then when Lord Brahma saw this, he was completely flabbergasted. He was thinking that he is the greatest living entity, the first living entity in this material world. And he had no conception that there were other Lord Brahmas. So that was an indicator that this particular universe of ours, and you must know that the scientists, they've been trying to calculate the size and the distance of this material universe. And if you see the numbers, it is completely mind-boggling that this universe is so huge, but comparatively speaking, it's still so small. Now, the next interesting statement Prabhupada makes is Dvakta, Pipalam. And Prabhupada translates in the word for word, having left Pipalam, household comforts. So Prabhupada says, this indicates that he has now finished his pastimes in this particular small universe. But since the Lord is absolute and eternally blissful, there is no difference between his leaving or accepting. Now, interesting, the Lord is described here as he looked cheerful. Now, there is very few people who know that they're going to leave the world that would be cheerful. Most people that leave the material world leave it in a fearful state, in a confused state, in a depressed state, in a state of uncertainty. But Lord Krishna, being the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he is cheerful. One of the qualities of Krishna is always cheerful. He's known as Atmaram. Because Lord Krishna, Prabhupada explains, is like the sun. Sometimes the sun, when it rises, will come within our vision. And when it sets, it goes out of our vision. But it doesn't mean when the sun is out of our vision that the sun does not exist anymore. The sun has disappeared. It's still there. It's just that we cannot see it. So Prabhupada gives this nice metaphor, this nice analogy, that Lord Krishna is like the sun. Sometimes he comes to this world, he comes within our vision, and then he leaves. Just like right now, in some universe, Lord Krishna is performing his Damodar Leela. It may be some slight variations to the Leela, but in some universe, in this material world, right now, Lord Krishna is performing his Damodar Leela. And in another universe, he'll be performing his Rasa Leela. So this is the nature of the Lord. And it's not that he is leaving this world, he is now becoming morose. He is never morose, Lord Krishna. Any questions or comments on this particular verse before we move on? Okay, we can also come back later on if you have any questions, comments, or reflections. So text number 9. Tasmin maha bhagavato dvaipayana surit sakha lokan anucharan siddha asa sadha yadit shraya chaya. Word for word, Tasmin, then Mahabhagavata, a great devotee of the Lord Dvaipanya, of Krishna Dvaipanya Vyas, Surit, a well-wisher, Saka, a friend, Lokan, the 3 worlds, Anucharan, traveling, Siddhe, in that ashram, Asa, Sadha, arrived, Yat Richaya, by his own perfect accord. Translation. At that time, after traveling in many parts of the world, Maitreya, a great devotee of the Lord and a friend and well-wisher of the great sage, Krishna Dvaipanya Vyas, reached that spot out of his own perfect accord. Purport. Maitreya was one of the disciples of Maharishi Parasara, the father of Vyasadeva. Thus, Vyasadeva and Maitreya were friends and mutual well-wishers. By some fortunate accident, Maitreya reached the place where Lord Sri Krishna was resting. To meet the Lord is not an ordinary incident. Maitreya was a great sage and a learned scholar philosopher, but not a pure devotee of the Lord. And therefore his meeting with the Lord at that time may have been due to Agyata Sukriti, or some unknown devotional service. Pure devotees always engage in pure devotional activities, and therefore their meeting with the Lord is natural. But when those who are not up to that standard meet the Lord, it is due to the unforeseen fortune of accidental devotional service. So some very interesting statements being made by Srila Prabhupada, by Maitreya, about the great Muni Maitreya. It's interesting that this verse from the Bhagavatam is describing Maitreya Muni as a Maha Bhagavata, a great devotee of the Lord. Yet, Srila Prabhupada says in the purport, he was a learned scholar, philosopher, but not a pure devotee of the Lord. Now, there seems some apparent contradiction here, doesn't it? How can we understand this apparent contradiction? I thought about it. Maybe let me hear your thoughts.
It's way too this
I couldn't understand what was being said. Was someone? I don't know what to make of what was said. Anyone wants to comment on what I've just asked? Anyone else? So I thought about it, where it seems like an apparent contradiction. There's something about the way we study the Bhagavatam. And Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami alludes to this in the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. He says that we should not be philosophical lazy. If we come across anything in the Bhagavatam that tests our understanding, we should not put it in an inconceivable box and close it. We should try to understand it. Because that's what the study of Srimad Bhagavatam is about. So we should try to look at it from different angles and try to understand it. Not thinking that Srila Prabhupada is mistaken. Srila Prabhupada is making a contradiction, and so on. We must explore both the words of the Bhagavatam and the purports of Lord Krishna's pure devotee. I will share with you what my thoughts were. And I would consider that I'll still continue to explore this in my discussions with other devotees and try to look at it from different angles. So in the Bhagavatam, in our scriptures, we see some of the great devotees being portrayed as being on a journey where there's an evolution of their consciousness and there's the deepening of their bhakti. And that is largely arrangement by the Lord so that we can identify with such personalities with our own journey. And also we can see the path of bhakti, of how it may be shaped. So Maitreya Muni, it is described that at some point in time, He was what is called sometimes a Jnana Bhakta, not an Uttama Bhakta. Jnana Bhakta means someone who is a devotee, but they have some inclination towards philosophical speculation, and they have some inclination towards mukti. And we know pure bhakti, savai pumsa, paro dharmo, yeto bhakti atokshaje, ahaitukiya pratyata, yayatma suprasidati. That only pure bhakti can satisfy the soul. So any person who may be a karma mishra bhakti, a jnana mishra bhakti, or a yoga mishra bhakti, mixed devotees, by association with the pure devotees, by association with the Lord, they will be purified. So Prabhupada makes that point, and we should not think less of the sage Maitreya, because everything is arrangement of the Lord. And the Bhagavatam is trying to teach us lessons. That's just my perspective on this. The second important point, or interesting point Prabhupada makes, is that Uddhava's meeting with the Lord was natural. But Maitreya's meeting with the Lord was incidental. And Prabhupada used the word agyata sukriti. And agyata sukriti means unknown devotional service, or accidental devotional service. So sometimes to meet the Lord is not ordinarily possible. It's a very special event. It's a very rare event. Those who are able to meet the Lord face to face are greatly fortunate souls. So those who are pure devotees, their meeting of the Lord is described as natural because it's coming from a spontaneous arrangement between the Lord and his devotees, their meeting. But some people who have accidentally performed devotional service, just by dint of that, they get to meet the Lord. Now this is a significant statement in that it shows the power of bhakti. Even unknowingly performing devotional service is so powerful that it can result in one meeting the Lord. And the way I take this whole verse and the purport, again, as we discussed when I last facilitated, is emphasizing the purity of bhakti, pure bhakti, and so on. Okay, I'll move on to the last verse because time has gone on. Tasya nuraktasya munir mukundaha pramoda bhavanata kandarasya ashrinvato mam anuraga asa samikshaya vishramayan uvacha. Translation: Maitreya Muni was greatly attached to him, the Lord, and he was listening in a pleasing attitude, with his shoulder lowered. With a smile and a particular glance upon me, having allowed me to rest, the Lord spoke as follows. Purport: although both Uddhava and Maitreya were great souls, the Lord's attention was more on Uddhava because he was a spotlessly pure devotee. A Jnana Bhakta, or one whose devotion is mixed with the monastic viewpoint, is not a pure devotee. Although Maitreya was a devotee, his devotion was mixed. The Lord reciprocates with his devotees on the basis of transcendental love and not on the basis of philosophical knowledge of fruitive activities. In the transcendental loving service of the Lord, there is no place for monastic knowledge of fruitive activities. The gopis in Vrindavan were neither highly learned scholars nor mystic yogis. They had spontaneous love for the Lord, and thus he became their heart and soul. And the gopis also became the heart and soul of the Lord. Lord Chaitanya approved the relationship of the gopis with the Lord as supreme. Herein the Lord's attitude towards Uddhava was more intimate than with Maitreya Muni. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, what verse do you think I'm going to quote from the Bhagavad Gita? Ye yatamam prapadyante tamstateva bhajami aham. Krishna says, as they surrender unto me, I reward them accordingly. Now, some people may accuse Krishna of being partial. But as Prabhupada explains, this is not being partial, it's just natural. It's natural for one to feel more intimately inclined to one who is more devoted. So Uddhava was a spotless, pure devotee, uncontaminated by any desire for philosophical speculation or fruitive activities. So it was natural. Just like in the Mahabharata, when Krishna told Duryodhana and Arjuna, whoever I see first when I get up, they can have my whole army, the army. And Duryodhana, thinking he was very smart, he went and positioned himself right at the Lord's face, at the head of the Lord, and Arjuna positioned himself at the feet of the Lord. And Duryodhana was quite confident that when Lord Krishna wakes up, he'll see him first and he'll get the Lord's army. But Lord Krishna, when he got up, he looked straight at his feet. Because Arjuna's devotion was attracting the Lord's glance more powerfully than Duryodhana's glance. It's natural. It's natural. So just some description here. And again, not to think any less of the great sage Maitreya Muni, but just take it in the context of the whole Bhagavatam is trying to show the superior nature and power of bhakti, because the Bhagavatam wants everyone to come to that platform. And the point is, Lord Krishna is not attracted by knowledge, he's attracted by devotion. The gopis of Vrindavan, they were simply village girls, not particularly highly learned in Sanskrit or the Shastras. But yet Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu approved them as to being the greatest devotees because of their devotion, nothing else. Okay, devotees, I'll stop here. Gone a bit over time. I'll take any questions or comments that you may have or reflections. Okay. None. Thank you very much for your attendance, your attentive participation. All glories to your service. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Panchakalpa Turubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha. Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda Ki Jai. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Nitai Gaura Premanande. Hari Hari Bol. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Now, thank you very much for a wonderful class.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Jyoti Mataji, for setting everything up and for recording.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu.